Morning.
How's everyone feel? Wow, it is bright. Whoa! Whoa, I see stars.
It's really bright. And it's not me.
Where are you at, Randy? I can't even see. Good morning, church. How's everyone feeling?
Good morning.
Is everyone nice and cold? They feel winter is here. It's your turn for a little bit. Enjoying it.
Brace yourself.
Okay, brace myself. Wow. Okay, that is like, I'm not even gonna make that joke right now. So yeah, that's bright. But
Not bright enough.
get back. That like kind of shocked me a little bit. Anyone have like that bright light put on you? You gotta get your mind right. Okay, I'm back. So, with all of this, before I even start into this message and really engage in this topic, as you see, the next few weeks we're going to be talking about this concept of starting over and moving forward. Sometimes I feel like starting over and moving forward are some of the most difficult things that we could do in life. It's so hard. And I planned on doing this actually, this series a little bit last year when I was kind of going through stuff. We were obviously committed in a book, so I didn't want to jump out of it, and I was going to probably do it later on this year. But in lieu of a lot of things, I think this week have transpired that kind of made me feel the need to move this topic up on our calendar to discuss. As we know, our brother Koya lost his physical brother last week, and they're really going through that right now, and that I think has been hard on all of us who love him dearly, care about him, just everything that he's been going through, and we send prayers up for him and his family during this time. But as along with that, I ended up finding out one of my students that I had the privilege of studying the Bible with, and he became a disciple in the Bronx. His name is Wisdom. He passed away at the age of 25. Young man passed away. And sometimes you kind of think about these things, and in general, the loss of life reminds you of your mortality, right? I think even the world kind of experienced something, it wasn't probably as personal with Kobe Bryant, right, who passed away. And I think a lot of people kind of felt that as well. Like they felt like this, wow, someone that you respect. And I think sometimes we could approach death and we could approach things from this perspective that it doesn't, certain people are untouchable. I think we can have a mindset, Certain people in our lives are untouchable, right? Certain people that we love and care about are untouchable. And then when it happens, it's like, wow. Death doesn't discriminate at all. And it's this could be it's a hard time. I know when I heard this, I was there consoling my brother and being there for my brother Koya, and then when I heard that, I'm like, wow. And in just kind of like preparing for this, and I was studying out a lot of this, what we're going to be talking about today, last year, there are certain things about pain and about perseverance that I was kind of just digging into at that time that I felt would be really good to talk about in this time as a church, just to encourage us all through this period. So we're going to jump into this series for the next few weeks talking about starting over and moving forward. And really the goal of this series is to help us understand that, help us understand how to ensure that next time won't be like the last time. Right? The next time we go into something, the next time we face this trial, the next time we face this situation, it won't end up like the last time. And this normally doesn't happen, right? Like we learn pretty quick, right? We go through something, we learn a lesson, and we never repeat it. That's how it works, right? Don't sound like I got a lot of support with that statement. Right? When you think about starting over, if you think of the things that we start over from, right? Starting over from a relationship, right? You had a bad relationship, and now you're out that bad relationship, and you're trying to go into a new one, right? You don't make those same mistakes. Nobody makes the same mistakes. You don't end up with similar characteristics, right? The person is similar, right? That doesn't happen. Right? That's not, okay, maybe, okay, right? You lost a job, and you got to start over with the job, right? And those bad habits that might have happened in that previous job, you don't bring those into the new job because it wasn't you, the reason why you lost the job. It was them, right? That's why you lost the job. It was nothing about you waking up 10 minutes before you had to be at work, right? That's not what happened. Or that failed test, failed class, right? Like, we don't learn the lessons as quickly as we probably should. And startovers that are your fault, startovers that are other people's fault, most of the time they're other people's fault, but startovers in general, or even just being able to move forward from something tragic, some experience, some pain, some situation, moving forward. Sometimes these things, I really believe, are some of the most difficult things to do. In my life, I have had the unique experience to have been able to watch a lot of people really have to start over and restart. Obviously, my job as being a minister, this is something that I engage in a lot, and just helping people to restart things, to start over, or to even move forward. And I've had a unique front seat experience to this, right? Like this experience, but not just watching it from other people's lives. I've seen it a lot in my life, where I've had to see myself start over things and repeat things and start back over multiple times because I didn't learn the lesson the previous time. And not just from my personal life, but even it's affected me. As I've shared with you guys, even with my family. I have a family that struggles from drug addiction, alcoholism, and I've had to watch my mother and my father go through rehabs and to start over. Like, I've lived a front seat experience to this. And it was important for me. I was like, man, I had to start writing down some of these things because there's just a lot of stuff that you really see from that journey. And it's the journey that we all go through. Yep. All of us have to go through this. Everyone will have to restart something. Everyone will have to move forward from something. This is a universal message for all of us. We've all had these things. And so, my big point, one of the big points, I got a couple of big points, and again, this is just an intro into what we're going to be discussing, but a big point I want us to catch is this. We learn from our mistakes in the areas that matter the least. This is a fact, right? We learn from our mistakes in the areas that matter the least. Point in this, you play a game. You're learning a new board game or whatever. You make a mistake in that board game. You learn that. You don't repeat that mistake, right? You're practicing for a sport. You learn this sport. You learn this. You make a mistake, but you learn that. And we really adopt real quick to things that really don't matter that much, right? They really don't matter. Sports, lessons, putting toys together. Me and my son are putting together Legos and stuff, and he puts the wrong one in. He's like, oh, this piece doesn't go here no more. He learns from that. You learn these things, right? Different things we learn kind of quick when in areas that really don't have that great level of significance or consequence in our lives. Certain mistakes in certain areas we only make once. We learn the quickest. But the crazy thing is that I feel we tend to repeat our mistakes in the areas that matter the most. We really tend to repeat our mistakes in the areas that matter the most. Like, when you really think, and this is so unique because the areas that matter the most, like our finances, we seem to repeat the same mistakes in those areas. In relationships, we repeat the same mistakes in these areas, right? In things with our kids, with work, with school, things that matter the most, we tend to repeat the same mistakes, but things that matter the least, man, we learn pretty quick. Right? Yeah, it's like, oh, we learn this quick. And the irony is the consequence of the things that matter the least are never as severe as the consequences of the things that matter the most and not learning from those things and not learning from those experiences. And so after we do the same mistakes a few times, we suffer the same consequences, we ask ourselves this age-old question, right? And everyone has asked themselves this question. Maybe not out loud, probably to yourself. When will I learn? When will I learn? We've all been there. When will I learn? I've heard many people say this. When will I learn? Right? And this I is like the common denominator in all this whole conversation of when will I learn? Right? When will I learn? The common denominator in all our mistakes is us. It's us. And I truly believe there's some things that will be beneficial for us to examine in the midst of this about ourselves. Reality is we follow ourselves around everywhere. And in the midst of our greatest regrets, we will find ourselves there when we examine them. Consistently. We see this all the time. I've watched many people make mistakes. I, myself, have made many mistakes. And a matter of fact, this is really personal for me because when I was writing this stuff out, this was not like in preparation for a sermon. This is really in evaluation of myself. All these things I was studying this out was really like, Paris, you got some things you need to work on. But there's some reasons why you're not working on them. And you need to own some truths about yourself. It's literally what I wrote in my journal. I need to own some truths about myself. Because this is why I have not moved forward. So today I want to share with you guys 3 things that you have to do in order to make sure next time is better than the last time. We're just going to discuss 3 things, and it's not going to be a lot. We're actually going to move through this really quick because we're going to really expound on them in the later sermons individually. But today I want to give you an overview. So today I want to discuss 3 myths that I see in me, and you might see in yourself, that actually become a hindrance in us really learning from our experiences. So the first myth, or you can call them myths, but I call them 3 assumptions that we make, or here, 3 assumptions that we make subconsciously when we think about starting over. The first one is the experience myth. And this is big. I've seen this a lot, right? Experience myth. Experience makes you what? Is this true? Wow. But now we might say this is true, but isn't this a universal statement, right? Experience makes you wiser. But is that necessarily true? And I think we got to examine this because I think this myth is a wall that stops us from a lot of progression. In light of what I went through, I am wiser. That's what we say. Truth is, experience doesn't make you wiser. It makes you older. Right? It'll make you old, it'll make you tired. Experience make you tired, it'll make you poor, make you lonely. Experience in itself does not make you wiser. And I hear this all the time. I mean, when, if I'm counseling and I'm talking to people, I hear it even in myself. There's statements that I'll say where I'm like, I've been there, I know this. I've been there, I know that, I got it. I've seen it before, I understand this. I've experienced it, therefore, I am what? I am wiser. And I think in a lot of our areas, we kind of have said that in ourselves, right? Like, I've experienced this, I'm wiser. I went through the relationship, I know better now. Right? I went through it, I get it, I'm wiser. Experience alone does not make you wiser. An experience one time does not make you more prepared for the next time that you have to face the situation. It doesn't. But here's what will make you wiser. Evaluated experience makes you wiser. And this is sometimes hard for us to do, but this is really what makes us wiser. When we actually sit down and evaluate our experiences. We don't like, let me just say we, I don't know you like that. I don't like to evaluate my experiences. I have to own this truth about me. I did it, okay, I experienced it, I'm moving forward. And I'm not going to repeat it again because I saw it, and I'm not going to do it again. That's what I said. Now, what I do is a whole other topic, right? And we're going to talk more about that, especially in the next few weeks, right? And reality is, guys, I know this sounds like a cool, but you all know this. You knew this, right? Like, we all kind of like, yeah, parent, that was not very, like, eureka, you know? It's a very obvious statement. But like I always say, in the places where it matters the most, sometimes the most obvious statements are the hardest to see. Right? In the places and things that matter the most, sometimes these type of statements are the hardest to see. Yeah, it makes sense. I get it. You know, we've seen people that fall victim to this. You know friends where you talk to them about their relationships and like, girl, why are you talking to him? We're just friends. No, you said that last time. You know, why are you doing this? Why are you going over there? You know. You've been there. No, it's different this time. It's different. I know. I got it. We've talked to people like this. People have talked to you like this. Let's see, no one said that's so funny. Now we sober up real quick on that. You know? We know people who have had previous experience only to repeat those experiences. Experience doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee anything. Except for the fact that you might have wasted time. But an evaluating experience could honestly save your life. It could save your life. And we're going to talk about that more in the next few weeks to come. The next myth is that the know better myth. The know better, I know that's Southern. I'm sure Princeton students will give me a better grammatical way to say this. But it's how I say it, right? The know better myth, okay? The know better. Since I know better, I'll do better, right? That's a true statement, right? Since I know better, I will do better. Now, how many people know better and don't do better? Right? How many of us know better, but we don't do better? We actually do the same stuff. My son, Sean, we were talking about something going on with kids at school, and he was mad at some kid. He was really upset with some kid. And he said this, you know, kids think because they know right and wrong that they're going to do it. And then I laughed, and he's like, don't laugh because they don't. I was like, it's not just kids, Sean. It's not just kids. Sorry to bust it to you. That is not just children. It's the whole world, right? Yep. We know right and wrong, right? We all know it. We all know it. And just because you know it, you know, that doesn't mean we're going to do it. Just like he said. As a matter of fact, he said they never do it. And I was like, you really never, Sean? You know, but anyway, that's a whole other topic. But that's reality with us, right? We see this in life, right? Know better doesn't equal do better, right? All the time. It's not. It's not there, right? Doesn't equal do better. But it sounds really nice, though, right? If you know better, you do better. I mean, you know how many times I heard that growing up? Know better, you do better. Everybody, all my uncles, everyone saying, I'm looking at them like, well, you ain't doing that. I'm like, really? You gonna tell me that? Like, really? Like, oh, love my family. They're probably hearing this, but that's reality, right? That's not how we function, and we know this to be true because our parents will tell you what's right to do, right, all the time. Think about this. Go back to with your parents. You're at home, and they tell you, don't do this. Make sure you do this. Don't forget this. Make sure you take care of this. And what's your response? As a child, as a kid, maybe as a grown man or woman now, what do you tend to say to your parents when they say all that? I know. I know. Right? We all say this. I know. Don't forget this. Make sure you do that. Did you do this? I know, Mom. Mom, I know. I forgot. I know I didn't do it. Right? And this is deep. They keep repeating this to us because they knew this. They knew this. Just because you know don't mean you're gonna do. Well, that was Southern. Just because you know better doesn't mean you're going to do better. We know this. It doesn't equal that, right? Know better. Reason why it doesn't equal that, because know better doesn't equal the ability to do better. Knowing better doesn't equal the ability to do better. Think about how, you talk about this whole concept of restarting and moving forward, and starting over. We say, now that I have experienced this, I am wiser. Right? And because I know better, I'm going to do better. Those sound like some really good, motivational mantras to say every morning in the mirror to yourself, right? It sounds great, but it's not guaranteed. Because knowing better does not equal the ability or the power or the self-control to do better. And this is a big thing I don't think we explore enough. And, I talked about this a little bit a while ago in another sermon where we talked about neural pathways, right? We had this whole conversation about how just saying, just do this different, do this better, it doesn't automatically... Because there's a lot that goes into why we do what we do. It's not that easy. A lot that goes into that. And you've got to be able to understand that, because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you're going to look around and be like, I know better, why can't I do better? I know better, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep going here? Why do I keep saying this? There's so much more to this than meets the eye. And God has a lot to say about this, and I think if we step out of kind of the boxes that we kind of confine the Word of God in a lot of areas, we're able to see this clearly, how God's trying to help us to understand this doesn't equal what you think. But I can help you. Unless you evaluate experiences and make some changes, that's why your last relationship looks like the one you're in now. Right. That's why your financial situation last year or 2 years ago looks exactly the same way it does this year. Right. That's why you're having the issues at your job and the different situations that you're dealing with a few years ago that you are now. Because knowing better doesn't equal doing better. Right? They're two completely different things. Now that I know better, the question we should ask ourselves is, what must I do to ensure that I actually do better? Right. What must I do to ensure that I actually do better? And the third one is this. The third and final one is this. And this is a big one. The time man. And this is no matter where you are on the spectrum, this is something that we all face. Time is what? Against me. Time is against me. And I honestly feel like this myth got me in so much trouble. Especially, and the irony, it was during my younger college years. I think this myth got me in the most trouble. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. The mindset we go into it, this is, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. All the other people my age are doing ... All my other peers and friends are here doing this and that, right? And look at me. Opportunities are coming and going, and all my friends and all my peers, and I am here, and I'm not where they are, and I'm not doing things that I believe that someone my age should be doing. So, therefore, we get what? Anxious. We get anxious, right? We get real anxious. And we have to move fast, and I have, so we start saying something like, okay, I have my experiences, I get it, I had the experiences, so I'm wiser, I know better, so I'm going to do better, and now I have to move fast because time is against me. And what does that tend to get us into? Consistently, yeah, we get so caught up in time is against me. I got to make this happen. It's okay. I know better. I'm good. I did it. I went that way. Okay, that was a wrong turn. Just go this way now. Oh, okay, that's no wrong turn. Okay, just go this way. I mean, and I'm not gonna go left. I'm not gonna go right. But I can stop to figure out where's the best way to go. Right. And you just keep going, right? And you just keep moving because time is against you. You know, I'm ready to date now. I'm ready to spend time. I'm ready to do. I'm ready to go. And this mindset, running against the clock because you feel if you don't move now, you're going to miss out, gets you in the most trouble consistently. I've literally watched this happen so many times. Like, it blows my mind. Like, and it's not even just like people who are older, the young people. I'm like, dude, you're in, relax. Like, I gotta get with this person now. It's the only person that's ever gonna love me. Like, no, that's not true. Like, just relax. Who is this person? What's their last name? You know, like, I don't know yet. Let's just, you know, it's just like, sometimes we gotta calm people down. You gotta calm down. You know, I had a great time spent with our friends, the Lees, right, that are gonna be doing the marriage thing. They came in town this weekend. We had lunch with them yesterday. And as you guys know, they're marriage counselors, so they work with married couples. And, you know, he told me about a counseling session he had with a married couple, especially like people going into their second marriage, right? And he says he loves spending time with people who are having their second marriage and their second and third, because in all honesty, he's like, there's a lot that needs to be done there. Because once you go into a second marriage, there's a lot. It's not as easy as coming into the first one. And he talks about they come with unique struggles and obstacles that you must be aware of in order to be successful. They are more challenging, especially if they're like blended families. You're bringing kids in from other. There's a lot. There's more obstacles that you gotta you know, wrestle through with that. And so he was talking about how he just really those are the couples that he loves to just invest in and spend time in because he sees what could happen and he really wants to prepare them for this, right? And so, you know, his number one piece of advice he was sharing and shared with me about this, his number one piece of advice that he gives with everyone going into like their second marriage, right? He says it all the time. He says, don't believe the lie that time is against you.
Right.
My number one piece of advice is this: time is your friend. And that's what he was sharing. It's like, time is your friend. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. Yeah, right. See, that's what I said. I was like, I don't get it. What do you mean time is your friend? He's like, time is not your friend. Time is your friend. It's not your enemy. And he's like, the thing is, with relationships, sometimes Brad is stepping back and evaluating yourself, your situation, your circumstances, making sure that you really understand, and not just, I know better, so I'm going to do better, but you really, what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do better? What is it that's different? What are the specific things? And are you putting them in place right now? Like, are you doing these things right now? You know, well, I'm getting older. We need to get married. We're this, we're that. You know, no, that's not true. No, that got you in trouble the first time. You need to stop, evaluate, learn, and apply. And he's like, and take your time. There's no rush. If it's meant for you, it will be for you. And he's like, there's no rush. The problem is we get caught up in this rush. What if she doesn't, you know, want to wait? Or what if, you know, it's like, that's not it. And this is true in every area in our lives when we have to start over. And, you know, here's the deal. When you start over due to a bad decision on your part or someone else that affected you, right? We all have different reasons why we have to start over, why we have to move forward, right? The thing that you need most is balance. The thing that you need most is balance. And here's the big thing, and this is something that I know I had to see for myself, and even through counseling and everything to help me to kind of see this about me. That emotions are like the temperature. Our emotions are like the temperature. They go up real fast, right? Our emotions, they shoot up. But here's the thing about emotions. They go up fast, but they never come down as fast as they go up. Y'all ever notice that? Our emotions never come down as fast as they go up. And then it's just like, it just bobbles. You know what I mean? Like, and it takes forever for them to come down, right? They come down real slow. So you're carrying a little anger, you're carrying a little resentment, you're carrying a little jealousy, and you're off balance. You're off balance. You're dealing with pain. And there's something we have to own with pain. There's a truth with pain. Pain hurts. That was just saying, that was obvious.
Yeah. I'm going to say anything.
People get up here. You know, pain, especially if you think about physical pain. Pain makes you become very self-absorbed, right? Very self-absorbed, right? You stub your toe, and then someone comes and is like, hey, I need to talk to you about something real deep. What are you thinking? Get out my face. I'm going to punch you. Like, what are you doing, right? You know, you step on a nail, you step on a tack or something. You're like, and then someone's like, dude, I need to tell you, I just saw this person. Get out! What are you doing, right? It's like the worst. I know this for a fact. I feel so bad. I don't even want to tell this story because y'all gonna judge me, and I know this church. Y'all are judgmental. I'm playing. You know, it was so bad. It was so bad. But I literally had that situation. I stubbed my toe on the door, right? And then stepped on a Lego, right? Worst combination of things ever, okay? Legos, stubbed toe, and then my daughter comes crying, Sean took my toy! And I'm like, you don't see me right now? Like, you don't see me! Like, and she was like, Dad, Sean took my toy. And I'm like, I stepped on the thing. She's like, Sean took my toy. I'm like, okay, this is like I can't, you know? I can't. And no, typically I would be more like sensitive to these things. I went in the room and closed the door. Went in my room, I closed the door, and I threw a fit, and I called my wife, she didn't pick up the phone. You know, and it's like, when you're in pain, right, we become very self-absorbed. That's natural. You don't think about, oh, I'm hurt, I'm going to be self-absorbed. No, you're hurt, you become self-absorbed. Hear me on this. This is true spiritually and emotionally. When you go through spiritual pain and emotional pain, guess what? You become what? Self-absorbed. And we know this because we have friends that are going through emotional pain. And when you get with them, and you're like, oh, it's All-Star Weekend. Did you see what happened in the dunk contest? And they're like, yeah, I saw that. But you know what my ex-girlfriend did to me? And it's like, okay, wow, how did she come up from this topic? Like, what is this? You know, you're talking about something else, and the conversation always veers back. Why does the conversation always veer back to them?
Because they're hurting.
Because they're hurt. And when you're hurt, you naturally become self-absorbed. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm saying that this is a fact. Right? This is a fact. It's not, there's no demonization here. I'm just stating this is what happens to everyone that goes through pain. We all become very self-absorbed. I suffer from migraines, right? I go through this happens to me consistently. And the last thing that I want is someone to talk to me in the middle of one of my migraine sessions, to talk to me about, you know, what's going on in their life. Or ask me some difficult question. Or need me to do something. And y'all look, Parrish, you're sinful. What? Right? That's what it is. I'm like, I don't need that. I need caffeine and darkness. Right? That's what I'm looking for. Right? That's all I need. Caffeine and darkness. Leave me alone. I don't, and it is what it is. I understand your struggle. But this is what happens. When you're in pain, you become self-absorbed. Why did I stress this point so much? Pain makes us self-absorbed, right? Why do I stress this? Because when you got to make a decision and you're in pain, pain makes you self-absorbed. So what type of decision will you make if you're rushing it? You're going to make a bad, rash, self-absorbed decision, right? Because that's what pain does. Pain, when you're in pain, you're thinking about, you don't see outside. You don't see the big picture. You can't understand the magnitude of the decision that you're going to make right now. You're just like, I'm hurt. I need to get up out this. You know what I mean? Like, and you are, and it causes worse circumstances, worse pain. You know, self-absorbed people make self-absorbed decisions. Right? Self-absorbed people make self-absorbed decisions. Again, not demonizing, I'm just stating a fact. When you are in that zone, this is what happens to the best of us. To the best of us. We all do this, right? So jumping into the next thing because you're afraid of the time will only lead you into more pain. Right? Or a situation. When you are healthy and you have clarity, you have the clarity to make a better decision. And that's why you can't rush it. Sometimes you just need to take time. Sometimes you just need to I just need some time. I need to think. I need to evaluate my experiences. I just went through some stuff. I need to evaluate this. Okay, I've evaluated it. Now that I know this, how can I apply this? Not, I know better, I'm going to do better. No. I see these things. How do I make these really actionable steps in my life? And take your time to figure this out. It takes time. You have to wait long enough. You'll be able to hear things later that you can't hear right now in the midst of your pain. And this is a fact. There's people who are trying to talk to you now and you can't hear them. But you'll hear them later. Right? And so sometimes you need to just wait. You need to wait. You'll be able to hear from people later that you can't hear from now. You'll be able to learn things later that you can't learn now. You'll be able to see things later that you can't see right now. You can't just hear them now. You can't, and we've all been there, right? You got a friend that's trying to talk to you in the middle of something, and you're looking at them like they got 4 eyes, right? And they're like, what kind of advice is that? You're with them, and then you come back later on, and you're like, wow, that was great advice. I couldn't see it in the moment. I'm in a moment. And this is reality. The reasons people rush is because everyone feels like their situation is different. Right. So everyone can hear this, right? I'm sure people are hearing this and like, oh, that's great, Ferris. But you don't understand. Like what I'm dealing with is it's like next level stuff. It's different stuff. That's good for the common man or woman. But this man or woman is totally different, right? And the fun fact is this, true. I'll own that. Your circumstances may be unique, but you're not. Your circumstances may be unique, but you're not. Your challenges may seem unique, but you are not. You are not. And after you hear enough stories from other people, it's easy to kind of learn that, I'm not in the big vacuum that I assume myself to be in. Once you've experienced and you really talk and engage, I have learned this. That this is my job. I talk to people. I literally talk to a lot of people. And I talk to people who are doing really good in life, and I talk to people who have done really bad in life, right? And they had some harsh, difficult decisions. And after you hear from so many people, you start to see there's way more similarities with the idea of a lot of these things. You think about people in the Bible who had first and second chances, right? This concept of first and second chances. There's a lot, right? There's tons of people throughout Scripture that had first and second chances. Moses had that. Moses had it. Moses finds out he's not an Egyptian. He finds out he's actually a Hebrew, right? And then he's like, well, if I'm a Hebrew and we got Hebrew slaves, I need to free them. And so he goes on a mission to free the slaves and ends up doing what?
Killing somebody.
Killing an Egyptian, right? And then he has to run and hide on a farm for a couple years, right? Anyone remember how many exactly? Huh? 40. 40 years. Moses, after that happened, went and hid in the desert for 40 years before he actually came out and, was the Moses that led people into the promised land. 40 years before his second chance. David, similar, right? David was called to be king, hangs out with Saul. Saul gets jealous and starts throwing spears at him and all this stuff. David runs and hides, right? Runs and hides in the desert. And then the time between him going and hiding in caves in the desert and him actually being anointed, the Bible says it's about 12 to 15 years. That's a lot. And so here's the bad news. Here's some bad news, right? About these and many other people in the Bible. The first round, the second round, between them, there's always time. It always takes time. Moses was 40 years. David was 12 to 15. There's a gap of time. And there's two things that happen in that gap of time that I think are so important that I feel I'm learning more and more now, and even more so in some of these recent experiences that I'm going through. There's two things that really happen with that period of time and things that develop within us that are so essential. And the two things are this: an understanding of divine destiny and our ability to abiding in God and with humility, abiding in humility. Being able to acknowledge that God is up to something and I get to be a part of it. Like, God is up to something and I get to be a part of it. There's like this level of just divine destiny when you see what God is really, the fact that God wants to use me to do something. It's like it's absent of the entitlement of the initial, right? You think about like Moses, like, I'm going to free my people. Like, and it was like, whoa, wait, what? Look what you did when you did it your way. Right? And it's like, God wants to use me. There's this divine destiny, and no matter what God does through me or around me, I'm not getting proud or arrogant about it. I've watched so many people, man, and I see this so clear, especially because, going from Chemical Recovery, which is a group within our church that helps people to overcome drug addictions, and I've been a part of that. I help work with people through that. To spiritual integrity, helping people who are going through just sexual sins and the sexual addictions that they've been dealing with at an individual level, trying to help them with that. From AA groups, right? Like all these different Alcoholics Anonymous, and you see people that are just dealing with addiction and the consequences of addiction and how these addictive natures have really harmed their lives. And you see how they have to go through and get out of that. And me being a part of these groups are from friends, family members, and even I've had to be a part of some of this to kind of help myself. These things, you see something unique about the human characteristics within all of us. And I've seen this to be so true. I've seen this to be so true, man, when people come on the other side of this. This level of divine destiny and abiding in humility. I mean, there's such a humility that they walk out with. It doesn't make sense from a logical eye, but when you go through and you really evaluate your experiences, you really take practicals from the things that you've done. Not just I know better, but how can I really put this stuff into practice? Man, it changes everything. People who waited and allowed God to prepare them for the next chapter versus people who said, time is wasting, I know better, so I'll do better, and kept moving forward. Wow. You see the difference. There's always more time. In between, and in between, really it gets very uncomfortable. And the next few weeks, we're going to really examine that concept of why this is uncomfortable. And why this just isn't natural, And I know sometimes even hearing this, we can kind of think, some of us love to think in the hypotheticals, and I want to caution you from thinking that way. I think it's hard for us sometimes to kind of I guess how am I trying to say this? Sometimes you can read this and you can hear stuff like this and you'll be like, yeah, but if I was that person, I would do it like this. I just want to remind you that you're not that person. So I don't care what you what assumptions you want to tie into someone else's experiences. I want to challenge you to evaluate your own experiences. Keep this personal. Like with you. Not like, well, if I was going through this tragic situation, here's how I would have viewed it. I wouldn't have no divine destiny and abiding humility. I would be like, I want justice and I want payback and I want this. But man, I have consistently seen over and over again this heart from those who are recovering from some situations that we wouldn't even dare to imagine, a heart of forgiveness. I need to forgive. I need to move forward. I need to let go. I'm just grateful that I have an opportunity to step forward. And see, sometimes when we don't, it's a testament of our heart when we can look at someone else's circumstance and be like, that wouldn't be me though. No, I want retribution. You know what I mean? Like, we need this done. And I'm like, man, it kind of creates that cycle that we consistently go in. I've watched this. I've watched this stuff firsthand with my family, like people I love. I've seen what this stuff looks like. And so the hypotheticals don't get you anywhere. And I just want to caution people from going into this from that perspective, because I think it happens a lot. You know, piece of advice is this: if it's not your reality, don't waste your time coming up with hypotheses behind hypothesizing why other people wouldn't be able to do. We have to allow God to redeem, which is adding value to our past, rather than avoiding it and regretting it.
Amen.
Which is really important. We've got to allow God to add value to our past, rather than avoiding it or regretting it.
Amen. It's really good.
You know, round one is normally about us. When we go through our first experiences, and we, you know, God give me this A, God help me find a perfect spouse, God help me to do this thing, right? We tend to go about it. The first round is always like very self-absorbed, self-focused. It's about me. The second round normally changes that because of the in-between time. You know, when you come from a first round, if you allow God to work in you in between rounds 1 and 2, you could walk into round 2 with a greater sense of divine destiny and abounding in humility. You know, I'm working hard, I'm more disciplined because I'm grateful. Because I'm grateful. But I'm doing all this with a greater sense of purpose and mission. Everything doesn't hinge on me. And, I want to end this with this one scripture. You're like, where the scriptures at Paris? Trust me, we're going to have tons coming up in this series, so just introducing this. You know, and it's from Paul. And if there's anyone that knows something about rounds 1 and round 2, and the in-between period, it's Paul, right? Paul had a huge round 1, which was very violent and tragic. 14 years in between time between his 2 rounds. And his round 1, right, was hard because he persecuted and assisted in killing Christians. And because of that, it was it haunted him throughout his work as a disciple and apostle. It haunted him. It was embarrassing. It was public. Everyone knew about it. Everyone saw it. Matter of fact, people didn't even trust him because of it. Right? But he saw God use that to set him up. And he writes this in Romans 8, verse 28. And he says this, and we know that in all things, and that's really huge. He says, we know that in all things, in all circumstances, no matter what happens around you, no matter what happened to you, that God's grace is so big that it covers that. So we know that in all things, God works. And this is huge. We know that in all things, everything, good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, God works. Right. God works. And you got to own this truth. In all things, God works. In everything, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the disgusting stuff, if I give it to God, God will work.
Amen.
if I really spend time spiritually evaluating my experiences, spiritually submitting to God's plan in the steps I should take in doing better, and what that looks like, God will work and allow that time to work. If we get this right and say this, it changes everything.
Yep.
Just because I had an experience doesn't mean I know everything. Just because I had an experience doesn't mean I'm wiser. Just because I know better doesn't mean I'm going to do better. You got to own that. God will work through and in this experience. God wants to use all things to bring glory to Him. And if we don't allow God to use these things, then they will come back to haunt us. They will come back to haunt us. But if you allow Him to, they will show up in our future to help protect us and even help someone else. Because other people need to hear how you overcame.
Amen.
Other people need to see that. Like this is what brings me life, is watching so many people start over and be victorious. It brings me life. Like it's one of the reasons why I love what I do. And there's weeks when I don't love what I do. I'll be honest. There's weeks when this coming up here and trying to inspire and help people is very burdensome, right? It's hard. And that's reality, but I can't deny how this works. How God works.
Amen.
He works. It's just us sometimes that stop Him.
Right.
Right.
We stop Him. And people need that.
Amen.
You know, it goes on in Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. This is big. God wants to bring purpose to everything in our lives. He works in the good of those who love Him, according to His purpose. Right? He wants to bring purpose to everything. As we study this out for the next 3 weeks, I want you to ask yourself, we're going to be digging deep into some of these questions and really dissecting these things. But I want you to ask yourself, moving forward, man, how can I really apply these things? How can I learn from these experiences? How can I make sure that I'm giving God all of me and not reserving other parts because I think that I'm wiser.
Amen.
I know better. Don't be afraid of time. Time is not against you. Time is time. And if you have time, that means you have more time to learn. Use it. Use time to make you wiser. Stop running from it. So we're going to have time of discussion. And here's going to be the discussion question. I want you just to talk to someone on your left or right. We will look up people and let's spend the next few minutes discussing this. Of the 3 myths, which is the most difficult for you to change?